Time to catch up with One Nation leader, Senator Pauline Hanson. Pauline, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
Now, you would have been listening to some of the discussions we were having. I want to touch on the anti-semitism issue in Australia for a moment. Surely this is as simple as just letting the police do their job.
I totally agree. Why haven't they been able to do their job? They've been told by the ministers and the government to actually hands off, you can't do anything. Yet we see the hate preachers in our streets. Nothing's been done about that as well over the years. And we have the laws there in place, Stephen, that can be dealt with, but they're not prepared to do it. It was the Jewish community that took that guy before the human rights and won the case against him on the hate speeches. So it is there. This government is reluctant to actually do anything. They need the Muslim vote. They're siding up to Islam. This, fundamentalists that are in this country that have allowed them to come into the country, my fear is you have 800,000 to 1 million Muslims in the country, you've only got 100,000 Jews. Why would they actually side with the Jews when these votes in a lot of these areas, especially around Sydney and some in Melbourne, they rely on the Muslim vote?
But surely the governments we're talking about can't be convinced that the Islamic community is that stupid, because, the average Muslim living in Australia doesn't care if there are Jewish people here and doesn't blame the average Jewish person living in Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, Brisbane or otherwise for what grievances they might see happening overseas.
Stephen, I'm telling you, they're pushing their own agenda and they're using this as an excuse. You look at what's happened around the world. Once they get a percentage of the population in a country, then they start pushing for their rights, what they want. And that's exactly what they're doing with these politicians, because the politicians are in fear to say or speak out against it because of the retaliations that's happened. And that's what we've seen around the world with some of the politicians that have been murdered because they speak out against Islam or the fundamentalists of what they actually stand for. So it is a real concern. You have to really come down hard on it to put a stop to it. Otherwise, it will grow and fester in this country if we don't put a stop to it. Well, it's not just about the Jewish people. It's about every Australian out there.
Well, exactly.
Has the right to actually walk the streets in peace. And it's disgusting what's been allowed to happen. And I blame the politicians. And I blame it right from the head stinks.
Yep.
And it should be Albanese that should be doing something about it.
No,
and the premiers of these states.
Now, speaking of the Prime Minister, what did you make of his address at the John Curtin Centre regarding our relationship with the United States?
He's trying to cover his backside. Curtin has nothing to do with it, and that was a different time. That it was to do with the Second World War, that we were in a terrible position of whether to send our army over to defend England, but Curtin said, no, we won't. We will defend our own country because the Japanese were bombing up at Darwin and also around Broome. The whole fact is the alliance didn't happen till in the early 50s with Menzies and America at the time. He's basically saying we'll make our own decisions. He's the Prime Minister for a short period of time. His decisions that he will impact on Australia. And do we want to be aligned with China? No, we don't. Does he? Yes, he does. Have no doubt about it. He's been to China 4 visits now. He can't even get into America to see to see President Trump because he's been snubbed. This man is hurting. He doesn't like to be shown up, and that's exactly what's happening here because he's arrogant and he's rude and he's actually could put us in such a situation. He hasn't dealt with the tariffs. He hasn't been able to. The minerals that they're wanting, the critical minerals that they want. And there's other issues here in this country. He is not, I've said it right from the start, he's such an arrogant person. He's no leader. He makes the wrong decisions for the future of this nation. He didn't win this election. It was only by chance of the preference flows that got him the seats. He only got 35% of Australians that voted for him. 65% don't want him, and I reckon if we did another election now, he wouldn't win it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what would happen because, nothing has improved, that's for sure, since the election. Just on that, now we saw the polling out of Victoria that nobody wants the Labor government to stay, but they probably will get re-elected because nobody wants to vote Liberal anymore. You've set up a youth branch of One Nation. Are you trying to attract people that would have normally gone to the Liberal Party? Because membership seems to be... Yeah,
Stephen. Yes, we are. Why wouldn't we? I hear it from the university students all the time. They see what's happening to our country, the way it's going in universities. They want change, but they don't see the Liberal Party. One fellow went to join the Liberal Party because they looked at his profile, they saw he had a picture with me, so they wouldn't have him. They're not listening to young ones. I've set up Young One Nation, and we're actually pushing forward with that. I want to involve the young ones. I want people to understand and empower them what's about politics, why you should vote for a political party, to get involved because it's about your future. People in this country have been dumbed down for so long. They don't know how to vote. They don't understand politics. It's not taught in the educational system. We have to turn it around.
We used to do all of that once. And, I think I'm not that old, but I think back to my schooling and, we had our, a trip to Parliament House and we learnt how proportional representation worked in the Senate. We learnt what preferential voting was about in the lower house. We, talked about how bills were formed. All of these kind of things seem to have fallen by the wayside. It used to be just a general part of our education.
It was. But the whole fact is when you keep people uneducated, mushrooms, then the fact is you can do whatever you want to. People don't understand the legislation that's been passed at the moment, the impact it's having on you. So even the Labor Party have increased, even now they want to increase the number of senators in every state. What for? We don't need more senators. It's about control, power. That's all it's about. It's about holding their positions. It's not about working for the people.
Pauline, as I've always said, there's not a single problem we face at the moment that hasn't been caused by politicians, and more politicians isn't going to fix any of them.
Correct. And I'm fighting it, Stephen.
Good on you, Pauline. We'll catch up again next week.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Pauline Hanson, One Nation leader, back with us next week on the program.